Mahawi Kudos early in the stage. It's now the taller of the two Eritreans that is moving off the front. What an occasion for African cycling. What an occasion for the Eritreans. For the first time, Eritrea with starters at the Tour de France. Two of them, Tekla Harmanon and Kudos, and they've both had an impact on the race. It's been a joy to watch. Osada at the front, with former teammate Platzer also in there for Lamprey. This is Talansky. Well, Andrew Talansky, after yesterday's stage, with the emotions raw, he said, we're not racing to defend 12th, 13th, 15th, or even 11th. Top 10, well, I was aiming for top 5. Here to try and win a stage. And win a stage is exactly what he is now trying to do. He's had a second place finish. He was in the breakaway yesterday, finished in 9th spot on the stage. Incidentally, Andrew Talansky sits in 12th position overall at 15 minutes and 18 seconds behind. So there are 15 riders up the road. 35 seconds is the gap from the Team Sky-led peloton with Richie Paul on the front through to the leading group of 10 with then 5 chasers. As for riders for the yellow jersey Chris Froome to be concerned about, there's no real threats. The best placed rider overall who is going forward of the peloton is Andrew Talansky, who's in the second group. He's in 12th position at 15 minutes and 18 seconds down. This group is now being declared it's a Rodriguez group, and understandably so. Peter Sagan. Caught and passed. This is Talansky, Tekla Harmanons, Scarponi, Roland, Gutier, the two riders in the dark green colours from Europcar. And the Cofidis colours under a fair bit of pressure. You can see the rattling and rolling. That was Danny Navarro. Danny Navarro is a good climber. Stage winner last year at the Tour of Spain. Former chief lieutenant for Alberto Contador. Good to see number 188 in the move. This is Pantano, Colombian climber from IM Cycling. 3 stage wins for number 75. He's 4th, perhaps comes in Paris, but he's got a big task ahead of him before he gets there. And that is the task of surviving these mountains. Sebastian Chavanel was the rider behind him, the brother of Sylvain Chavanel. Part of the big lead-out train for Arnaud Demar at this year's Tour de France. The sprinter on the FDJ team. And 26 riders have broken away clear of the peloton. 42 seconds the gap. 2 riders in that leading group from Astana, Scarponi and Westra. Great to see Jean-Christophe Perrault in the move. The team leader for Lotto Soudal, that is Tony Galopin. Rodriguez is assessing the situation, doing a roll call. The group's too big, Kruijswijk doesn't like it, he goes forward on his own. Good climber, Steven Kruijswijk. Been putting in a solid performance, the Lotto NL Jumbo squad.
Right, on Tour from the back of the pack and race, direction number 2. It was expected a lot of us have been dropped as soon as the first kilometre over this stage. Riders like Arnaud Demar or Tyler Farrar, and they will certainly struggle. It's going to be really tough to finish on time on this stage and remain at the Tour de France. Only 138 kilometres of riding, and it shall be a battle all the way to the finish line for the sprinters of the Tour de France.
Port, Thomas, Roach. Next in line is Leo Koning, followed by Luke Rowe. The tactic you would suggest for Team Sky at this point, given the composition of the breakaway, will be just to let them go up the road a little bit, keep as many of their riders intact as possible over the top of this climb, because then they head through the valley, the intermediate sprint, and they want to save their main climbers through that period and let Luke Rowe, for example, do the work throughout the valley road. And then it's onto the Col de Glandon into the Col de Croix de Fer, which is when Koning, Wout Poels and Port will take over. Rodriguez with two teammates joining him in the breakaway. This is Caruso now, who's at the front, one of the Italians on the Russian squad. Roman Sicarides, who sits in second position from the Europcar team. Rogers. Not exactly camouflage, is it? The colours of Tinkoff Saxo this year, despite the fact they declared it camouflage. This is Steve Cummings, followed by Rigoberto Urán. Peric Kimener is the next rider to try and go across from Europcar. And this is catching the attention of Team Sky ever so slightly. They don't want to let too many riders go forward, particularly riders from Movistar. Well, the weather has played a role in this year's tour, mainly through the heat as opposed to the rain. The biggest impact the rain has had was really on stage 2 to Zela, which seems like such a long time ago. It was Andre Greipel who won the stage then, and Fabian Cancellara moved into yellow, as Tony Martin just missed out. The leaders slowly starting to build up their advantage. And it looks miserable at this point. Kruijswijk now going through to the front. They made a lot of sacrifices yesterday, the Lotto NL Jumbo team, to support Robert Gesink in his bid for a top 10 finish overall, in fact a top 5 finish overall. And he's within striking distance of the top 5, Robert Gesink. Today though, they have put a rider in the break. The main rider for them that's been flying the flag in the breakaway so far has been Wilco Kelderman. Today, it's Kruijswijk. He's strong-willed, Steven Kruijswijk. He was prepared to go toe-to-toe in the media with Fabian Cancellara at the Tour de Suisse 3 years ago when he was only a second-year professional. So against Fabian Cancellara, Spartacus, the man with a reputation of being very strong-willed himself in his home tour, and Kruijswijk took him on. Extraordinary weather conditions. It is warm here at the finish line. Most of the spectators are in shorts, t-shirts, and many of them in singlets trying to stay cool. Cloud cover though, it is starting to roll in here at La Toussière. Dylan van Baarle sitting in second spot, a young Dutchman on debut at the Tour de France. Michael Rogers behind him. And seeing Michael Rogers in this breakaway, it's a clear message that Alberto Contador is not going to go away quietly. He has said that in order for Valverde not to finish on the podium, it would take a big mistake. Did say that Alberto Contador wouldn't go away quietly. Well, he is now going on the charge. Port responds. They are former teammates. There's not a lot of love lost between the two of them either, I might add. In 2013, when Chris Froome won the Tour for the first time, Richie Porte was seen at one point along the road having a conversation with Rodriguez and Valverde, indicating that he thought perhaps Alberto was vulnerable, so there could be a chance for those guys on the podium. And it is an abrupt reaction from Richie Porte, and it's not necessary really, you would suspect, given where Alberto Contador sits overall at 6 minutes and 40 seconds behind. But he has caught the attention of Alejandro Valverde, and this is dangerous. Valverde does need to be contained. Well, Alejandro Valverde at 4 minutes and 9 seconds behind Chris Froome. Overnight, Chris Froome has said he only needs to watch 2 riders, Valverde and Quintana. No matter what you say about Alberto Contador, he delivers entertainment. He can be the hero and the villain all in one. Gerrit Thomas is now coming across from Team Sky. Tactically, this is good by Team Sky. This is Christophe Riblon from the earlier breakaway now being caught. Short stages, 138 kilometre stage. They are much better to watch as pure entertainment, the long drawn out arm wrestle of a 200 kilometre stage through the mountains. Riblon, he's won at Alpe d'Huez. We head there tomorrow. And Gerrit Thomas has brought it all under control. Alejandro Valverde, he looked a little vulnerable yesterday. This is Wilco Kelderman. He's had a tough tour, Wilco Kelderman. He crashed in Utrecht of all places, racing on home soil. Warren Barguil is the next to go. Here goes the young Frenchman from Brittany, racing for top 10 finish, and the man that responds is Bauke Mollema, who's in 9th position overall. They played a game of tactics, those two men, yesterday. Robert Hessink now comes through, 6th position in the general classification. Valverde into the slipstream. Barguil on debut at the Tour. He's been a top 10 finish at the Volta a España, a stage winner there as well. Here comes Mollema. And Hessink, two Dutchmen, they're racing for a couple of prizes. Bragging rights at least, as who can be the best placed Dutchman overall. Mollema yesterday played the game of the yo-yo, and Barguil after the stage said that he was playing with him a little bit because he knew that it was Mollema and Bardet further up the road that he had to race with for a spot inside the top 10. As now the defending champion, he's not defending his title any longer. He's now racing for pride. And Vincenzo Nibali, 7th position overall, 8 minutes and 4 seconds behind. And if the rain is going to please anybody, it is Vincenzo Nibali. Because Vincenzo Nibali, in the rain on the descent, his bike handling skills are an even bigger advantage. But for all that's been discussed in the past about Chris Froome and his bike handling perhaps being his Achilles heel, I think it's fair to say that at this year's Tour de France, he has put that firmly to rest. On the stage across the pavé, it was Froome right at the front, attacking just as much as Vincenzo Nibali. And then on that stage to Prelude with that treacherous final descent. Well, he marked Vincenzo Nibali all the way down and had no problems whatsoever. The Spanish connection, Contador and Valverde. And a long day of containment for Team Sky. They've got a little bit of time to play with. More than 6 minutes to Contador, just over 4 minutes to Valverde. Well, some people were suggesting that perhaps Movistar today would be a little defensive because of what's at stake with potentially 2 spots on the podium. There are big bonuses for finishing on the podium in the Tour de France, as much as from 200,000 euros up to 500,000 euros. And at the moment, Alejandro Valverde holds down 3rd position. So do they risk Alejandro Valverde in 3rd place personally, the riders within the team, and sharing in those bonuses in pursuit of the yellow jersey Fernando Quintana? Looks like they will. This is Scarponi, Nibali, Gutierrez. So the Italian national champion has made it across to the front, but the gap is only 15 seconds. Kruijswijk, here the broad shoulders from Lotto and El Jumbo. Fernando Quintana, he's made it pretty clear, he feels good, and he's still got the will to win. In fact, he has an enormous desire to win. Now the words of the Colombian climber. Says having Alejandro Valverde close by is crucial to his ambitions. Herrera is in this group from Movistar. There he is just on the right-hand side of the screen. Sitting on the wheel is Steven Kruijswijk. This is Scarponi at the front, a former winner of the Giro d'Italia. A good man to have for Vincenzo Nibali. It looks like Team Sky about to reel this large group back in, still consisting of 25 riders. Sagan suffering through the mountains. He's got 15 second-place finishes on stages at the Tour de France. That's throughout his career, 5 of them this year. Simon Yates at the back of that little group, losing contact. That was Jose Serpa from the Lamprey squad as we work our way through to cross off the riders who are being dropped. This is Anacona, who was third on the stage yesterday. The South African national champion also losing contact, Van Rensburg. This is Fulsang, the Luxembourger, who was in that move yesterday, finishing in 4th place. Now going off the back is Izagirre from Movistar. Swiss national champion. Marcel Wies from BMC, also losing ground. This group now going into survival mode. Number 73, Thomas de Gent. He was the one who announced this morning that Marcel Seberg is selling tickets for the Gruppetto. Daniel Oss and Caruso, the 2 Italians from BMC. And the big figure of Navadauskas. This is Castrovejo, Adam Yates. We've already seen Simon. So the twins will get themselves together shortly. Christophe Riblon, who was in the first move of the day. But number 66 is bigger news. This is Samuel Sanchez. Starting the day in 15th position overall. He has been a winner of the King of the Mountains classification here in the past and the podium finisher overall. A 3rd place finish for Sanchez a few years ago. Scalponi and Nibali, Astana. Strong words from Alexander Vinokurov a week ago for Vincenzo Nibali. The Italian saying that Vino just wants to motivate him. They're trying to smooth over the waters in public at least. I wonder what it's like behind closed doors. I'm not sure it's quite so harmonious. I'll see if we can peer back down the road and get a glimpse of the Sky squad leading the peloton. There's no longer any official time check coming through on the official race computer. Well, here we go, we can see for ourselves. Froome still with 3 teammates perched in front of him. Not much left of what was considered to be the main peloton. Talansky, Valverde, Pierre Roland knows the roads well. He won here in 2012. And it was on this stage, La Toussière, where Chris Froome attacked the yellow jersey of his teammate Bradley Wiggins. Sean Yates got on race radio pretty quickly to call him back. Steve Cummings, the rider with the jersey completely unzipped from MTM Quebecer, creating history for the South African team on the stage du Monde. And this looks like Wout Poels, the Dutchman at the front for Team Sky. Richie Porte appears to have lost contact. Richie Porte has said that he's not in the condition that he was at the start of the Giro d'Italia, which was his big target for this season. He was the #1 man.
What a start to the race. Bear in mind that so far we've covered the massive distance of 24 kilometres. That means we're still looking at 120 kilometres to go to the finish. There's a lot of racing left and a lot of climbing left on today's stage. Looks like Roman Kreuziger. Now Froome has decided he's going to the front. He is a pretty good bike handler. A lot of people criticise his bike handling ability because he looks a bit gangly on the machine, but really he's got a great background. He's ridden plenty of mountain bike races. He's ridden some cyclocross, and he's come up to that group very, very quickly. I think this is he's just seen the move, and this is Bardet now. Bardet, the winner of yesterday's stage, he is a good descender. He's seen this as an opportunity, and he's responding. Now, Rigoberto Urán, he was third on the stage up to Pralou a couple of days ago, and Romain Bardet has seen this as an opportunity. But once they get down this descent, they've got quite a bit of flat.
Well, they continue to take great caution at coming down the mountains, and I don't blame them. This road is wet. It's drying out a bit now.
They did take caution just for a little while, but now all of a sudden Rigoberto Urán, the Colombian rider on Ethics Quickstep, he said he's enjoying this. He likes the conditions. He's going to see if he can open up a gap before we get to the bottom of the climb. And the rider who won the stage yesterday for France, Romain Bardet, he's also gone out on the attack.
Yes, well, he is proving to be an ace descender here. This is... at the front is Rigoberto Urán. Yesterday's winner is coming across, and apparently, Paul, you told me that Bardet has been practicing cornering on the Silverstone motor racing circuit in the UK.
Just learning how to handle the corners, to line himself up for the corners, and I think we've seen that is working out fairly well for him. And I think he was taking a page out of the book of Thibaut Pinot, who actually moved on the Paul Ricard motor racing circuit in the southern part of France, just to know how to line up, how to control yourself going around the corners. And I don't think Rigoberto Urán has been on either of those racing circuits, but he's going around these corners without very much fear at all.
Well, after yesterday's efforts, Bardet has become the best French rider in the Tour de France, sitting in 10th place now, but only 16 seconds ahead of Warren Barguil, who is currently trying to rejoin the peloton with Geraint Thomas.
Well, you might just spot on the back of Romain Bardet there, Phil. He's got the red numbers on, not a surprise. He was the most aggressive rider of yesterday's stage, and the French were very, very happy with his performance, and the French finished in first and second place. Pierre Rolland was the second place rider.
As we continue to wind our way down here, this is the chateau of Our Lady of Beaurepaire. And it was supposedly built by the will of the Virgin. The materials said to have appeared on site of their own accord.
Originally built in 1862, but the oratory was rebuilt in 1760 with the addition of a few extra meters to make it look rather beautiful as it is. Inside there is a deception and a trick of the eye deception in the paint.
This is
stained glass
Geraint
windows.
Thomas. Sorry, Paul. This is Geraint Thomas here. We just call it Barguil, and Dylan Van Baarle has just got on after his little ride through the grass. It looks as though they're still chasing, though. They haven't got on yet.
Not quite, but they're still looking at around 20-30 seconds off the back of the yellow jersey group, who have obviously slowed down a fraction and giving Romain Bardet another day of aggression. He really endeared himself to the French crowds yesterday, coming across Rigoberto Urán. He's the man who really started the attack there, coming away from where the cloudburst happened a few moments ago, and as they get down into the valley, well, the road surfaces now are dry. Yeah, well, once they drop down into the valley here and get themselves away from this first climb of the day, they'll go into the little town of La Chambre, or the Room, and that's where they'll then line up for about 30 kilometers of flat along the valley. They'll go through the sprint point in Épierre, through to Saint-Remy-en-Maurienne, and then into Saint-Étienne-de-Quine, and that's where they will then start the next climb, the big climb of the day, the 22.4 kilometer climb of the Col de la Croix de Fer, which is in fact the longest climb of the Tour de France at 22.4 kilometers. So there's the yellow jersey, just looking a little bit further back. Wout Poels is in that group. Joachim Rodriguez, the leader of the King of the Mountains competition, and there is Geraint Thomas just getting onto the back of this group with Warren Barguil. I think he can now breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. All, I think, Phil, caught out by the severity of the attacks right from the word go.
Well, he's got about 30 kilometers to recover right now, because that's when we start the climb of the Col de la Croix de Fer. Leopold Koenig also here as he continues. There's still a bit of racing to go for him, but they might recover this one. Very lucky they've got this valley road before we start the whole climbing for the day.
Yeah, 30 kilometers of valley road, Phil, once they go through La Chambre till they get to Saint-Étienne-de-Quine, and that is where the climb of the Col de Glandon, or the Col de la Croix de Fer, actually starts, and that is a beast.
Now, this guy's one of the best descenders in the world, I think, so this is how you should do it. 19 seconds the gap. Romain Bardet, the winner yesterday, is at it again now, and he's got his tail up here. He wants to go even higher in the overall classification. It is his third Tour de France, Paul. Last year, because he finished 6th, the French expected him to walk through as winner in Paris, and he said it doesn't come that way. It's not quite like that.
No, he's right. He said
every
French rider who comes forward, they think you're going to be the next winner of the Tour de France, and he tries to put all of that kind of pressure away from him. Even yesterday he was asked, well, now that you've won this stage, are you going to be a Tour de France winner? He said, well, you know what, I think I would rather try and win stages and get that incredible emotion from winning a stage than fighting out to finish in between 10th to 15th place in the Tour de France and have the freedom to go for stage victories.
Well, there he is. He wears the red number because he was voted the most aggressive rider of the stage. There could be no arguments with that yesterday after he attacked on the Col de Glandon. And he stays up there. I don't know what's happened to Rigoberto Urán, but he may have out-descended him here.
Well, he's about 15 seconds behind. I think he's just keeping a close eye on him. But just watch the way this guy goes around these corners. It really is quite magical. He's lining himself up perfectly. You see how he switched quickly across to the right-hand side, adjusts his speed correctly to go almost on the apex, using all of the tarmac there to pick himself up to high speed once again. This is the Frenchman, Pierre Rolland, who, let's not forget, Phil, 3 years ago was the winner at the top of this very climb here.
Yes, and bet your life he'd like to do it again. He's had a second place, and he'll see if he can improve on that. Well, this is at the head of the yellow jersey group, and there's the yellow jersey making the corner safely just at the moment as they come round. They're running away from the Col de Chaussy now, and we'll go down to the town of Épinay. We're still a little way from there, and that's where we'll have the green jersey sprint. He's got himself 22 seconds, but as you know, it's a long way to go to the finish.
No, it certainly is, but I think he may well be given a bit of, he's got a slightly wrong line here, but you see how he adjusts his speed perfectly, gets a bit too far into the middle of the road to take that corner, but he's just got the ability, he's judging his speed to perfection to be able to correct himself going around that corner and not put himself into a little bit of difficulty. He really is a very good descender. He has no fear at all. And here is Rigoberto Urán coming straight back through the slipstream of the motorbike to rejoin him. Urán, I think, got caught out a little bit earlier on the descent by the slightly tighter and more technical corners. Now, as they get down into that, the yellow jersey group is actually only 17 seconds behind them, but I think maybe when they get down into the valley road, the yellow jersey group may just switch off a fraction as Pierre Rolland tries to bridge a gap. He's halfway across between the yellow jersey group and the two leaders.
Face of Pierre Rolland here. He's not afraid of descending either.
Well, he's not, and Phil, yesterday he did make the point that he was caught out a little bit by the accident to Jakob Fuglsanger when Romain Bardet made his attack off the front, and he paused for a moment and he felt that he didn't respond quick enough and ended up chasing all the way down to the finish to end up in second position. Today, I don't think he wants to make the same tactical mistake.
Also, and then I'll do a climb.
This is the yellow jersey group, and you see it's not very big. There are others coming on now on this long descent. Geraint Thomas is back,
so
and slowly but surely he's getting his riders in black around him, Chris Froome. But they better all be back before we start the climb of the big climb of the day today, and the longest climb of the Tour at 22.4 kilometers, the Croix de Fer. It is a really difficult climb. It is outside category. When we get over the top of it, we are 55 kilometers from the summit. It's an HC class climb over the Col de Mollard, and then the climb up to where we commentate from at La Toussuire.
Well, I think now, Phil, they're just about to get off the descent. They'll drop down into the town of La Chambre, which, if you translate into English, means the room. So hopefully they've got all the doors closed. They've got about 30 kilometers or 18 miles of flat valley road before they start the next climb of the day. And that's when I think we'll start to see a little bit of regrouping before the next aggression on the slopes of the climb. But I think the first thing to read into this first 45 minutes of racing is the fact that towards the top of that first climb of the day, Chris Froome was very isolated with only one teammate left alongside him. That was the Dutchman, Wout de Poels. And you can be certain that all of his contenders will have noticed that his team was looking a little bit frayed on the edges today.
Well, he did make it pretty obvious, but you know, the next climb is a different climb. 22 seconds, two riders coming together as we descend away from the Col de Chaussy. Still 108 kilometers to the finishing line. Rigoberto Urán has just come up behind Bardet, the winner yesterday, but the peloton with Chris Froome, it's getting bigger in size as well. The gap's 22 seconds.
It is, and I think if they could just, well, you've got a couple of chasers coming across. So one of them is Pierre Roland. They are saying, in fact, that it's also Joachim Rodriguez, but I hadn't seen him. I thought I saw a teammate. Anyway, we'll get more clarification of that. Uran has got that aerodynamic position at the front. He's just now coming into the town of La Chambre, and then they'll have that long valley road, which I think will see the yellow jersey group will slow down a fraction. In fact, we're getting confirmation that it is Joachim Rodriguez in the chase group with Pierre Roland. He does not want Romain Bardet to go clear because he's now comfortably leading the Frenchman by 10 points. But there's a lot of points available over today's day.
The 25, it's on the next climb, and that's very important. If we put him in second place, he'd lose his jersey on the next climb if Bardet was to go over in first or second position at the moment. Well, the town's put all the bunting out as we're going through the room, as La Chambre. We're in the region 73 today, which is the Savoie of France, and we're in it all day. It is a stunningly beautiful region of France.
Well, here's the yellow jersey group, and it's in fact the riders from Lotto Jumbo doing the majority of the pacemaking. There's Robert Hessig. He's looking very good in this final week of the Tour de France. He's currently in 6th place overall. 7 minutes and 39 seconds down, and this group really has swelled in numbers. There's Michael Rogers going through.
Geraint Thomas there, so he's now safely back, and Leopold Koenig has just come back as well. So slowly but surely they're getting back up. They'll try to recover on this descent, and then we race along the valley.
Well, the one Sky rider who's seriously missing is, in fact, Richie Porte, who went off very, very early on in the early kilometres of that first category climb of the day.
Looking into the face here of Rigoberto Urán, and now Romain Bardet has become a big star of French cycling overnight.
Okay, so this is just the case.
And he'd be inspired by everything you read about himself. He's a very polite, very quiet cyclist, and he's a sort of likeable guy the French will warm to.
So
There's a move going on down there, looks like Lotto.
Well, it says a lot to my thought that they were not going to attack along the valley floor.
Well, I'm not too sure why they're pushing on, but they're trying to make a breakaway up front, and reaction coming from the peloton.
Again, Daniel Tekla-Heimanot, he's looking for the move today. The first African rider to wear the King of the Mountains jersey at the Tour de France, and he's been very aggressive. The whole of Team MTN Quebec-Phil have been very prominent, and I think really very much paying respect to their wildcard selection to the Tour de France.
Now these boys are trying to sense that they might be able to build up a winning, a race-long breakaway from the peloton now. They're not marked men there, trying to get into the move at the front. Need to bridge 22 seconds to help out these two riders. Urán looking over his shoulder. I don't think you see them around these roads here.
Well, Urán has not got much to make out of a breakaway like this, Phil. He's lost himself almost an hour and a half in the overall standings. But all of a sudden, I'm just looking, there's a bit of reinforcements coming forward.
There's Rodriguez come across, that won't be welcomed by Bardet.
Now this is looks like Gautier making the move. Now I'm not quite sure of the move by Gautier because he's got a teammate in the front.
Yeah.
So that's a bit strange.
Well, Roland has got to the front, the most important rider on the team, but Europcar yesterday had 4 riders in the breakaway.
Well, I think the reason he's making the move there, Phil, is it's almost come back together. The gap is not very much more than 10 seconds between the leading group of 4, Cyril Gautier here, and a little bit further back the yellow jersey group, who don't seem to have too much organisation. I think they realise this 30-kilometre stretch is a chance when they've got to recover before the next climb of the day.
Well, look at the distance there. Still riders coming through after that descent, broken on the way up, and the speed. These riders are going to keep on countering like this. They're not going to get on either. This was supposed to be the rebuilding section of the course today, but they're staying with the screws tightly turned up. This is Pierre Roland. There's the composition of the breakaway: Bardet, Rodriguez, Urán and Roland. Chris Froome won't be sending the chase up. He'll be looking to recover with his team as best they can here before we start the big climb of the day.
Well, Gautier has acted as a carrot to the donkey here because he's been right off the front of the main field, encouraging them to chase. So as we pull back now, we can see that there is one lone leader, and that's Pierre Roland just up there. These 3 riders, I think Purito Rodriguez in the polka dot jersey, he's quite happy to have caught the man that he's keeping a close eye on today, and that is Romain Bardet. slackening off the shoes just a little bit. Now, Gauthier wants to go again. Well, obviously, he doesn't like the fact that his teammate is leading on his own, and he figures that two pairs of legs are better than one.
Well, this time the gathering force is behind. In the distance, there's a small group chasing. That peloton is still very small here, and we've a long way to go. 104 kilometres, that's a long way.
Well, we're looking here at Pierre Rolland, who, interestingly enough, was the last winner in the Tour de France here at the top of La Toussuire, and that was back in 2012. He's obviously smarting a little bit by finishing second on yesterday's stage. He just waited a little bit too long to move behind Romain Bardet and never caught him up right the way up to the finishing line.
Well, Pierre Rolland forcing the gaps to open again. Riders living in hope are trying to reach him. Just 9 seconds the spread. And Sagan, who would love to be up here for the sprint, which is at 42 kilometres into the stage today, is still behind the field. And here he is, and he's in this, not that far now. There's the field up front with the yellow jersey. So he wants to be across and try and get a few cheeky points in that green jersey, because Andre Greipel, Mark Cavendish are even further behind. This is a horrible day for the sprinters today.
Well, two reasons why Peter Sagan wants to get into this group, Phil, is first of all to try and get himself points at the intermediate sprint point when they go through Epierre, but also to be there and to be helpful for Alberto Contador.
Warren Barguil, 82. Adam Yates, 108, so they've all got themselves into the group again now, and coming straight through on the right, of course, that green jersey of Peter Sagan. He knows he's closing in on the sprint point. He might have come back in the nick of time. It looks as though Pierre Rolland is going to be swept up here.
Yeah, but the sad thing, Phil, for Peter Sagan is that group has a small group has split off the front of the yellow jersey, and Sagan has read
spotted it. He spotted it. The race split there as it slowed down. Riders hoping for a long day away from the race contest for the winner of the Tour.
I'm sorry, Phil, I cannot say enough good about Peter Sagan. You know, this guy is phenomenal. And when a guy like Bernard Hinault, who won the Tour de France on 5 occasions, gives somebody a compliment, because he very rarely compliments anybody in this day and age, but he reckons that the sport needs more men like Peter Sagan, a man who does not calculate, he doesn't look at his wattage, he doesn't look at his heart rate, he rides with his heart and with his gut.
That makes him a complete bike rider for sure. And we'll see what happens now, because they're going to try and close down this if they can, as we're seeing a little bit of a counter move just now with Christian Coran, who was in trouble earlier.
Well, Sagan didn't get out of that group. He's almost being held hostage in the group there. Vive le Tour! Well, we're not going to contradict that, are we? Long live the Tour.
In Savoie, and that's where we are all day today. 29 seconds at the gap. Well, I must say these riders have not given up attacking since the flag was pulled in. This is going to be a very hard day for the riders in the Tour.
Yep, 100 kilometres to go. I make that about 4 kilometres to the intermediate sprint point, and still they are throwing caution to the wind. Pierre Rolland has been brought back into the fold now by that small group that split off the front of the yellow jersey group, and attacks continue to happen. This is Dan Martin now, just ahead of Daniel Tekle-Heimanot. He's the Eritrean rider who has become quite a star in the Tour de France this year, at 93 kilometres to go. 99 kilometres to go. We're just going through the small town of La Chapelle. It's 29 seconds. There's the yellow jersey. I'm just looking back. You can see Vincenzo Nibali. And there is Joaquim Rodriguez looking down to see who's made this group. But now all of a sudden the group has become just a little bit too big, and that's why there'll be a general slowing down. But 30 seconds to the yellow jersey group. We're now looking at a large splinter movement going off the front of the main field. This is Michael Rogers, followed there by Joaquim Rodriguez, the leader of the King of the Mountains competition. Here is Chris Froome, and he is 32 seconds behind, but with a much bigger group than we were with a little earlier on, once we got up to the top of the first big climb of the day, the Col du Chaussy. There's Vincenzo Nibali. And they're, well, having a quick look at the cows, who are enjoying the view here in Savoie. Savoie are renowned for some of the magnificent cheeses. France produces more than 420 different kind of cheeses, by the way. And there's a very nice hard cheese comes from the Savoie region, the Tome de Savoie. 45, Rafael Maika. It's been a very rapid race when you think about the fact that there's been an awful lot of climbing so far. We're about 3 kilometers to go now to the sprint point at Espierre.
Well, if the combination's right, this might go away a little bit, Paul, because I think they've had enough of attacking just for the moment, racing through the nice little town of La Chapelle.
Yeah, well, the attacks have come from all quarters here, Phil, and that's been very, very rapid. I feel a bit sorry for Peter Sagan because he was looking to actually wrap up the sprint competition this afternoon. It's 3 kilometers to go there. He's caught in the yellow jersey group around about 31 seconds behind, so I don't think he's going to see the front, especially when you can see they've got the cars behind the group there. The yellow car is the neutral service vehicle and the red car is the race referee, so they currently feel that the group behind is not going to catch up before the sprint point.
He needs just 7 points in the green jersey competition to put it on the shelf for a 4th year, and he doesn't score at all if he's not in the first 15 riders at the sprint point. 3 kilometers to go for Sagan, but the gap now being timed at around about 32 seconds. 100 meters to the sprint. Is anybody going to have a go? I don't think so.
Peter Sagan is in the second group on the road with the yellow jersey group. He tried to get across to this move, but just couldn't quite get there as they kept the pressure on. The riders in this group as they come through there are no challenge at all. There, Pierre Rolland looking comfortable. Joaquim Rodriguez is really, Phil, very much a group of the climbers or the contenders for the climbing prize who've managed to slip into this move, and the yellow jersey group now has really slipped away to 1 minute and 10 seconds.
So Roman Sikar, I think it was there, going ahead. Daniel Tekla-Hymenot here is trying to catch that group on his own right now.
Yeah, like we said, this young man from Eritrea has become quite a star in his country. He missed the back seat of the bus there, but he's certainly not giving up the ghost. He's trying to get across the gap. He's halfway across in no man's land. As we start to see, they really are slowing down in this group, and that's because they're picking up a little bit of a headwind coming down the valley road, as Team Sky now seem to have calmed the ardours of everybody. There were a lot of attacks early on, down to 3 riders from Sky, followed by Chris Froome, followed by Alejandro Valverde, Nairo Quintana, and then behind him in the Italian national champions jersey is Vincenzo Nibali. But further back, the AG2R. Oh, there's a crash at the back. Well, that was a crazy crash there. I don't know how that happened. Well, just as we were coming into town there, the rider who went down there, in fact, was Alexandre Geniez. Well, that was very, very crazy the way that happened. It just goes to show anything can happen at any time during the Tour de France. You just think you're having a nice relaxing ride through a beautiful little town like this one here of Epierre, and the next minute you find yourself on the ground. All the riders looking back to see just what sort of damage happened. Number 53 is Jonathan Castroviejo. He's the Spanish national time trial champion coming forward. It's always chaos at this moment as well. This is another group a little bit further back, and there's plenty of sprinters. There's our good friend Thomas de Gent, about 4 or 5 back, with a little bit of a beard around the Lotto Soudal rider's face. And behind him, you've got the big record rider from yesterday, Bob Jungels. Richie Porte is in this group, but doing a little bit of tempo riding, and big old Ian Stannard. This is a very, very big group.
That's a different tactic there. They're trying to chase now and drive at the front rather than defend to get across the gap as they go through the sprint point. Stannard and Richie Porte want to be up by the side of Chris Froome just now.
Well done, my man, because he's just about to make the junction with that leading group.
He's chosen just a short climb before we continue to go down again, before we get onto the Croix de Fer, and he's made the most of that, and he's going to get in amongst those cars. It's been a very good chase by Daniel Tekla-Hymenot. MTN Quebec, the wildcard team, came here just to do what they could do, and they've turned out to be an absolutely sensational first-time team in the Tour de France on Africa. Motorway speeds along there as it races towards Italy. As we watch the Tour de France on the right-hand side, they're still second in the team race, by the way, MTN Quebec. They lost a bit of ground yesterday. They lost 20 minutes. Now, it sounds a lot of time losing 20 minutes, but the time is 3 riders cumulative.
Nice King of the Mountains horse there, up to the right-hand side as well. I think that seems to be quite a popular colour for the horses in this part of France, and maybe it's just for the month of July, though.
22 riders in the leading group now, as Daniel Tekla-Heimelot comes up to the front group, which contains the leader in the King of the Mountains and the man closest to him, Romain Bardet. So those two will go head-to-head on this climb, I suspect. It's a long way to the top of the Croix de Fer. We're not at the start yet. The arrival at the back of the leading group after a long chase here, the Eritrean, the African rider, MTN Quebecer, as Daniel Tekla-Heimelot comes on to the back of the group. The leader in the King of the Mountains, Joaquim Rodriguez, shakes his head. Also up here is Tekla-Heimelot's teammate, Steve Cummings, who was the winner in Monde, gave the team a terrific day there. There's the full list for you at the moment. Pierre Roland on the right of our picture. He was the rider who won the last time we went to La Toussuire back in 2012. This is a good group as far as the pressure goes for Chris Froome. He's not worried about them yet, and he's not going to counter their move. Three riders just trying to lift the pace just a little bit here. Paul Wellens of Lotto just having a little stab here. And I might feel as though they've got the right little combination, 2 minutes 47. This is what they want. No worry about anybody chasing them down because they're up near the leaderboard. And 88 kilometres to go. Now, when we top out at the Croix de Fer, will be 55 kilometres. So it is just about 11 kilometres to the start of the Col de la Croix de Fer.
I think the theme for the day, Phil, has to be the polka dot jersey. I think everybody's thinking about that, the King of the Mountains, because after all, after the yellow jersey, the King of the Mountains is really the jersey that has created so many legends of the Tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 22 riders now lead. We've got 86 kilometres to go to the finish. The gap really is now starting to stretch out quite a fraction to, well, up to 2.5 minutes. Well, 2.25 minutes is what they're saying exactly, but as you can see, this is the organisation. Michael Rogers is the conductor of the orchestra here. He's been in situations like this many, many times. A former 3-time world champion in the individual time trial. A brilliant rider on the track, and now not only is he the team captain, he's also the team politician when it comes to sorting out little niggly problems with the staff as we come down to the last few moments of the Tour, when everyone's getting on the edge of their nerves and worrying about whether they're going to get the victory or what's going to happen in the next couple of days. And they're now heading through the little town of Saint-Rémy-de-Maurienne. We're going down the Maurienne Valley. This is the leading group here, number 121, Pierre Roland takes on board Drixa very quickly. They're quite happy with this long ride. This man over the years has turned out to be quite a climber. Many people have said that he's used a lot of his energy trying to ride the double over many seasons, trying to ride the Giro d'Italia and the Tour de France. But this year he decided to miss out on the Giro d'Italia and concentrated completely on preparing for the Tour de France. 2011 saw him win the Alpe d'Huez, 2012 saw him win at La Toussuire. So he, I think, will be making the move once we get onto the next climb of the day, the Col de la Croix de Fer, which is quite a magical, although vicious climb. Well, it's great to see that Daniel Tekla-Heimelot rode across that gap. I thought it was going to be very difficult because you've got the 30 kilometres of flat in between the descent and the start of the next climb of the day, but he's certainly proving in the last...
You know, we were all surprised by his riding in the first days in his first Tour, and being an African rider who'd never seen this sort of a race. And he got the lead for 4 days in the King of the Mountains. And now he's riding like an absolute veteran, and he's getting stronger and stronger, and that's a great sign for the future for Daniel. So let's hope, and don't forget, MTN Quebecer are second in the 22 teams overall, and that also was not expected, but now they've got there, they're going to defend that as best they can. They've got two riders up front.
Well, Phil, just to make you feel a little bit better about the day, the side up to the Col de la Croix de Fer from the Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne side is the longest side, which is 29.5 kilometres long. We're coming at it from the opposite side, so we've only got the shorter set today, and that's 22.5 kilometres long.
That'll be a big relief. They come down the Croix de Fer before they actually climb up towards the finish of the race today. Now Lotto Jumbo got 3 riders at front. They've still got all 9 men on the squad riding here. As we get through one of the towns of the Maurienne here, Saint-Remy de Maurienne. It's a village just off the Tour route actually. It doesn't matter, they're still enjoying the passage of the Tour.
In fact, just going back, Phil, the first time that the Croix de Fer was actually included in the Tour de France was just after the Second World War back in 1947 on the stage from Grenoble to Briançon, and it was an Italian, Camallini, who went over the top in first place on that occasion.
I bet you the road surface was highly questionable on that occasion. Well, the yellow jersey is holding now. They've come inside of 2 minutes. And it's certainly looking at the peloton here, it's getting bigger. And they're picking up this tailwind just now.
Yeah, well, that tailwind will make these riders just feel a little bit better. They can recover before they start the next climb. But this is a massive group. Once again, we're seeing on this third of 4 mountain stages. Oh, there's a crash right at the front. They're going through the feeding station. Oh. That's Tim Wellens who went down there. Just watch this.
That was Tim Wellens.
It was. And that was, oh. Well, it was just at the moment when he took on board his bag from the team helper at the side of the road, and I've always said, I say it so many times, the feeding station is very, very dangerous. Little things happen, and Wellens, he's not happy with that, and I'm not surprised. They're up alongside, they're trying to get his bike ready, and that's Mark Sargent pushing him away there. Mark Sargent, a former Tour de France rider and a former Belgian national champion. He's the team manager of Lotto Soudal. Well, that's taking the wind out of the sails of these riders in the front. Well, that was a bit of a shock. And as I say, all of the riders are... When you come to the feeding station like this, riders like to get to the front of the group. So Tim Wellens back up on his bike and trying to catch up. There's the doctor alongside to help.
For him, and because of that, they don't appear in the breakaways very often. They're trying to give him his best ever finish in the Tour de France, and he's right there in this front group. We're not far from the start now, and then I think we're going to see again major attacks on this difficult climb of 22.4 kilometres, and we're on it. We've just started the climb of 22.4 kilometres up to 6,700 feet, 30% of the steepest gradient. This is a hard slog, Paul. Over the years, the Col de la Croix de Fer has played its part in the Tour de France.
Well, it has. It's the longest climb in the Tour de France at 22.4 kilometres, and there's some interesting names in the leading group. Joachim Rodriguez, I think Michael Rogers and Roman Kreuziger are 2 important riders for Tinkoff Saxo. They'll be thinking about a move from behind by Alberto Contador. But Pierre Rolland, the rider who was second on the stage yesterday, is comfortably ensconced in the leading group of 22.
Oh, it looks like a big factory.
What has happened to Team Sky, because just looking down there is only one guy left in this group for Team Sky, and that's Wouter Poels, the Dutch rider on that squad. Everyone else has disappeared. There are 2 riders from Astana. There's one of them looking after Vincenzo Nibali. There are 2 riders from Movistar. As we can see, this rider slipping away here, and that is Adriano Malori.
Yes, and he's falling from the front group. There's Steve Cummings being picked up, checking out how many's there, and you'll find only 8 or 9 riders here in the peloton.
There's Michael Rogers looking over his shoulder. He's going to have a quick chat there with his man Alberto Contador. That's one of the reasons why Michael Rogers went into that early breakaway, so he could have an easy ride and slip back. Now, all of a sudden, Alberto Contador, Phil, has 2 teammates in this group, but Wouter Poels looks as if he's now in a spot of bother.
Well, he was yesterday, and he's last man standing for Sky right now, and now Chris Froome is going to have to handle himself here. Bauke Mollema just held in on the back, but I think Poels here is going to go off. There's Bauke Mollema.
Well, he's gone. So too has Michael Rogers. Rogers just slipping off the back end of the bus there. Rafael Michael.
He's gone again, Paul.
Oh, yeah, Nibali.
Nibali has attacked again, and the high revving Chris Froome trying to nail him back. He's got no teammate to contain him.
Looks like all the,
He's gone for him. Now he's got a lot of time advantage over
finish.
Nibali. He's got 8 minutes and 4 seconds. He can afford to lose a bit of time, but the others can't, and they're waiting and making Froome do the counter.
Sitting there as if waiting in the wings, number 5 at the back there in that white jersey, Phil, is Nairo Quintana. He's just sitting there and watching. He's allowing his teammate Alejandro Valverde to do all of this work. Robert Hessing and Bauke Mollema, the 2 Dutch hopes, they're in difficulty as Wouter Poels, Phil, has found something. He says, I've got to stay here, and he's really turning himself inside out.
Well, we're looking at first, second, third, and Quintana's moving up, and 4th place in the Tour de France because Geraint Thomas has slipped away. He's lost his 4th place at the moment to Contador. As the pressure goes on, we've gone back up to the leading group. Now we're back with the yellow jersey. Well, if he wins this Tour de France, he's going to win the hardest tour for a very long time.
Well, he keeps looking down there, trying to concentrate on his pedalling style, but you know what? All of a sudden, he's got the real big threats coming to him. Quintana is prizing open a bicycle length. Froome starts that pedalling cadence, drags himself up to the back wheel. This is Roman Kreuziger and Roman Bardet. They were in the front group a little while back, Phil, but now all of a sudden, as they look over their shoulders, they say, uh-oh, the big boys are coming.
And going past is Kangata, the pacemaker for Nibali in second. Quintana is waiting there. He's never had to attack, but that's what he said he will do. And he's given himself a 10% chance of winning the Tour de France. We may have underestimated him.
Or he may have been playing his cards very close to his chest on an occasion like this. They've still got Alejandro Valverde. Alberto Contador, you can't even really tell how he's feeling. He's got that bouncy little style. He's still got plenty of energy in those